It's Saturday morning cartoons, and I'm just a couple minutes late this morning, but that's okay. I hope. Anyway, it's I've got the death card up here. This is the death card from the Tarot of Ceremonial Magic. Now, it might seem a little goofy with the skeleton of death there pushing a lawnmower and got a dismembered hand and a foot out there on the lawn, and a couple of people's heads there at the bottom. But we also see a scorpion and a serpent. Both of those are emblems for Scorpio. And actually, the Hebrew letter Nun means fish or fishes, which is, well, fish really stink when they putrefy, okay? And they putrefy really fast in the open air. Uh, and putrefaction is one of the alchemical functions of Scorpio and Noon and stuff like that. Am I reaching for it? Okay. Anyway, uh, sadly, the last month, last few weeks even have been uh, characterized by the death of people I know and love and and other people that perhaps I've never met but have had a big effect on my life. And the older you get, the more people you thought you knew are dead. Okay, and death and mortality uh, becomes more to the forefront of your mind. Now, the classic uh, skeleton of death on a classic death card has a scythe, okay, that he's cutting the grass with. So that's the lawnmower. It's actually based on our push lawnmower, oh, that we left in Costa Mesa. Anyway, uh, but the handle of that scythe is a T or a tav, and or a tau, however you want to pronounce the Hebrew letter. But it's the last letter of the Hebrew alphabet, just like this is the last act of a life. And there we see there's been a new release of a book by Bob Stein and illustrated by Barry Hale that looks at these mysterious sigils in more detail. But you sort of see a coffin there, or the suggestion of a coffin, and 120, which is like the tomb of Christian Rosenkreuz. It's opened every 120 years. Uh, and then over here on the qliphothic side, you got, now I don't really think that that's a chicken, but it might be a crown chicken of death. Uh, I'll have to ask Rabbi Lamed Ben Clifford about that. But uh, I wrote a poem called "The Caliph's Advice," where the last part of it is how very much like life and how much very much like death is a trip to the water closet. Let's see, Mahat. Let's see. Adepts and Mahatmas dance widdershins as a devil and beast in Ozit, but an aspirant's day mysteriously begins by a trip to the water closet. It was advice given to me by Grady McMurtry upon my Minerval initiation when I asked him, Do you have any advice for a young magician just starting out? And he says, well, I'll tell you what Crowley told me when I asked him that same thing. He said, try to visit the water closet as much as possible because you never know when you'll have the opportunity to do it again. So I wrote that poem. I won't bore you with the whole poem, but the ending of it is how very much like birth and how very much like death is a trip to the water closet. And on August 14th, 1976, in Dublin, California, which is 37 degrees, 42 minutes, 54 seconds north, and 121 degrees, 54 minutes, and 36 seconds west. I bobbed gently in the quiet darkness of the warm water womb of our mother of time and space. My unborn ears were quickened by a song, the music of an enchantment softly intoned in matronly measure by she who would be my beloved god sister, Helen Parsons Smith. Her mystic spell was the fanfare to my magical birth. A short 9 years later, I stood before the mortal remains of my king, initiator, and friend, Hymenaeus Alpha 777, Grady Lewis McMurtry. I recited the same enchantment as a fanfare to his return to the great sea of our mother, Babylon Nuit. Before the beginning of years, there came to the making of man time with a gift of tears, grief with a glass that ran, pleasure with pain for leaven, summer with flowers that fell, remembrance fallen from heaven and madness risen from hell, strength without hands to smite, love that endures for a breath, night, the shadow of light, and life, the shadow of death. And the high gods took in hand fire, and the falling of tears, and a measure of sliding sand from under the feet of the years, and froth and drift of the sea, and dust of the laboring earth, and bodies of things to be in the houses of death and of birth, and wrought with weeping and laughter, and fashioned with loathing and love, with life before and after, and death beneath and above, for a day and a night and a morrow, that his strength might endure for a span, with travail and heavy sorrow, the Holy Spirit of man. From the winds of the north and south they gathered as unto strife. They breathed upon his mouth. They filled his body with life. Eyesight and speech they wrought for the veils of the soul therein. A time for labor and thought, a time to serve and to sin. They gave him light in his ways, and love, and a space for delight, and beauty and length of days and night and sleep in the night. His speech is a burning fire. With his lips he travaileth. In his eyes, in his heart is a blind desire. In his eyes, foreknowledge of death. He weaves and is clothed with derision, sows, and he shall not reap. His life is a watch or a vision between asleep and asleep. Now that's from Swinburne's Poems and Ballads, and at Atalanta in Caledon, its course. Yesterday, I believe it was yesterday or the day before, I was talking about Crowley's Rite of Saul and the almost comic opening between the guardians of the Shrine of the Sun. The sun's about ready to get himself assassinated in the rite. And they're his secret service, okay, that are just falling down on the job, actually. But they're arguing back and forth. But the whole ritual opens with Brother Leo. Now, remember the rites of Eleusis only momentarily celebrate the god in its exaltation. The whole rest of it is how that god falls or tunes down to the next lower Sephira. So Saul will make room for the Venus on the tree of life. But before the rite of Saul was the rite of Mars, okay, for number 5 on the tree of life. And so the opening of the rite of Saul is more or less, well, here we are. This is what the big battle, the big energy, the big even terror of number 5 has got, and we're now in the sun. And in a sense, Brother Leo, by giving this talk, which is seemingly kind of a downer, but by the same token, it's totally illustrative of the below the abyss reality of birth and death. And so the Rite of Saul starts off with that. And in the structure of OTO initiations, the 0 degree Minerval is your attraction to the solar system. But the 1st degree is birth. Anyway, and we're all going to die someday. Actually, the 3rd degree, according to Crowley's publicly published material, 0 degrees is attraction to the solar system itself. Like, hey, do I want to incarnate with these people in this dimension? You know, I don't know why anyone would decide to, but I guess we do. But 1st degree is birth. And in the structure, there's only 3 grades in the OTO. It's the man of earth, the lover, and the hermit. Okay, so the 0 degrees is just the prelude to the first degree. So you lump those two together as that's that's one degree number one. And second degree is life, and it's all by itself. There's no pendant or prelude. And the third degree is death. Okay, just like in the structure of Freemasonry, upon which it was based. And so in the OTO, everything. Oh, then you got fourth degree, Lodge of Perfection, Prince of Jerusalem. Those are all pendants to the third degree. So death is in the cards. Okay. To invoke life, sorry, the death thing comes along with it. And so that particular poem, Crowley was enamored with, and I can see why. It's awesome. And I can still hear it ringing in my ears under the the magical circumstances that I first heard Helen recite it. But anyway, thought I would share that with you as sort of I don't know, a prayer, an acknowledgement, a benediction, a psalm for those who have lost loved ones or people they cared about ever, but more recently because they're in our minds and hearts. Anyway, that is Saturday morning cartoons, and I promise to cheer us up a little bit more. If you're not already cheered up, we'll cheer you up a little bit with Sunday school tomorrow. Until then, continue to be good to yourself and be good to each other. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law, love under will. Because our life is a vision between asleep and asleep.